Welcome to the next talk from Evan Kirstein, Cyber on a Shoestring, Building Wagyu Career Skills and Experience on a Ramen Budget. Evan is a passionate information security professional with over 10 years of IT and cybersecurity experience, including system network administration, blue team, and GRC. And when Evan is not defending dollars from devious digital delinquents, they are a lifelong enthusiast of tabletop and video games, as well as home labs, cars, and motorcycles. Everybody, welcome Evan, and good luck.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. Whoop, there we go. How about now? Good? Okay, cool. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cyber on a Shoestring. My name is Evan. So the goal for this talk, we're going to be learning how to leverage free and low-cost resources, because everybody loves free, especially students, to be able to develop relevant skills, experience, and connections that we're going to be able to launch our cybersecurity careers effectively and then deliver repeatable and budget-friendly exercises, lessons, and proofs that we can start this week or whenever you get home. It's fine. No rush. My name is Evan Kirstein. I am a massive nerd. I'm the father of two little carbon copies of myself. An InfoSec professional. I've been in the relevant space for about 10 years, give or take. Currently, I'm an InfoSec analyst for Keesler Federal Credit Union down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I am the Chief Information Security Officer for Study GRC, which is a nonprofit that is dedicated to providing free GRC training and experience to the public. Outside of my professional life, I love tabletop RPGs, video games, big into Meshtastic and amateur radio. I've got my ham ticket with a heavy emphasis on MCOM, disaster recovery, and Ares. Building and racing anything with an engine, have motorcycles, cars, you name it. And if you come out tonight, you'll see just how much of a fiend for karaoke I am. I want to take a moment and thank everybody who's been putting on this wonderful conference. I know it's a colossal expenditure of time and effort and money. And thank everybody for inviting me to come talk. I promise that I'm going to be doing my best to try to live the words of the great but not late John Strand. Fail more, fail creatively. Also, credit goes out to Haircut Fish on Discord. Dude is an absolute legend when it comes to making John Strand memes. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. All right, so also, side note, apologies. My voice is a little wrecked. Something blew through yesterday, and my sinuses are very angry with me. So let's be honest, especially in the current economic state. Landing a job in cybersecurity without spending a fortune on getting your degree and an Eagle Scout's worth of cert badges, it seems impossible a lot of times. Everybody's telling you, oh, you need to go out, you need to get more certs, you need to get more training, you need to get more degrees, you need more everything. But the truth of it is, in the end of it, employers are most likely, or in most cases, are looking to hire skills and the proof that you can actually do the job. Whether or not you have actually done it in a professional setting yet or not, if you can show you did it, cool. Most of the time, that's going to tick the box. They don't want the badges and the letter soup that comes after your name. It's just a bonus. Which leaves us in a catch-22, right? How do you get the experience without getting the job to get the experience? Well, so we have a 4-step or 4-letter framework that's going to help with that. This is the 4P framework. And our 4 Ps are going to be prepare, practice, prove, and participate. And we're going to strive to wrap this into everything that we're doing while we are learning and building our skills. So prepare is going to be our learning stage. Pick a course, a lesson, a couple of blog posts about something that you want to learn. Digest it, do the learning, and then build yourself a 4 or 5 bullet plan of here's how I'm going to put this into use to practice it. Which leads us into practice. Run a scoped lab exercise, make sure that it's focused on what you're trying to do, and then capture evidence in the process. You're going to be looking for screenshots, logs, evidence of the commands that you were running, so on and so forth. Quick note on the practice portion. The reason why I say run a scoped lab exercise is to help keep you focused. As a musician, when I was a kid, I learned that it is much more effective to spend 15 minutes on a specific exercise doing, a specific scale or a specific movement than it is to spend several hours just noodling or playing around on an instrument. Same thing's going to happen with cyber or anything else you're trying to learn. If you spend time focused on one thing, it's going to cement a lot better. Next, that's going to run us into the prove section, where we are going to be generating artifacts. You're going to convert whatever you have done into a rule, a report, a policy. You can record a video about what you've been doing with screenshots and metrics to prove it, right? We want to tell what we did, and we want to be specific about what the results were. We want to quantify as much as we can. And then that's going to lead us into our final P, participate. We are going to be sharing, trying to make a value-first post, right? You're going to focus on the value that you're giving, not focus on, hey guys, look at me. There's plenty of that going around on LinkedIn right now. Ask for critique or feedback, especially if you are following somebody else's suggestion. You saw somebody post on LinkedIn, hey, I ran this exercise, you should do it too. If you go and do the exercise, reach back out to them with your results, compare results, ask them if they have any critiques, start building a conversation around that. That's also going to help building your network. So welcome to the cybersecurity smorgasbord. Unfortunately, cyber is a lot like metal. People argue about where things fall in terms of genres. This is very loose and this is not rigid, okay? First and foremost. Also, I know some people who would stab me for putting GRC in with the red team and blue team. I still say it goes there. Later on, if you hear me referring to lanes, this is what I'm going to be talking about. So, in general, we have blue team, red team, GRC, and OSINT. Once you get to more advanced levels of cybersecurity, there's going to be other stuff as well. This is going to be good enough to get you started. So blue team is going to be things like our SOC analysts, detection engineering, incident response, threat hunting, so on and so forth. Red team is going to be reconnaissance, exploitation, privilege escalation, penetration testing, things of that nature. GRC is going to be your policy development, your risk assessments, your control frameworks, compliance audits, all the wonderful Excel spreadsheet stuff. OSINT is going to be threat intelligence, source enrichment, adversary profiling, actionable intelligence. It's going to be gathering all the information to give to the other three. If you are looking for entry or foothold roles for these, I put a list of them at the bottom. Also, there's going to be a QR code to my Discord or my GitHub as well later on. I have the slides on my GitHub. And then they're also available in the Wild West Hackin Fest Discord as well. Also, I know a lot of people complain about it. Don't shy away from help desk roles. They're amazing for experience. They are a bit of a pain, but they're amazing for experience. All right, so like I said, with the lanes, you're going to want to pick a plate, not the whole buffet. You'll overwhelm yourself. So, reasons why you should pick one lane to start with. You're going to be looking at time efficiency. If you are making lane-aligned artifacts, they're going to be faster to build, and they're also going to demonstrate that you have the ability to focus on whatever your chosen lane is. Less context switching is going to lead to a tighter tool set, which is going to feed better weekly exercises and a more consistent proof publishing. A cohesive portfolio is also going to help generate a memorable and credible story when you go to put that in front of a hiring manager. Much better than scattered projects. Oh, I did this, I did that, but they don't actually, gel together. But this is not to say that you should only focus and only do that one lane. Focus on making it like a T-shaped growth, right? If you imagine the capital T flipped upside down, you want to go deep in one lane and then explore the others by about 20 to 30%. You still want to be at least familiar with, if not proficient in, other aspects as they're going to relate to the role that you are wanting. It's going to help you have conversations with people that are in those roles. It's going to help you make better stories for your leadership. It's going to help you make better sense of data that you're looking at. It's wonderful. And then lastly, you are going to want to build some clear interview stories. It's going to you want to emphasize STAR and CAR, so simulation, task, action, and result, and context, action, and result examples. These are going to be able to give number-driven examples when a recruiter or an interviewer asks you, hey, so tell me about one time that you dealt with a troublesome employee, or whatever the questions that they're asking at the time. A quick guide for this. If you're going to be doing yourself a 6-week sprint, weeks 1 through 4, work on shipping 3 artifacts, so building and then publishing, right? Week 5, work on a related automation project, build a little bit of scripting knowledge, things of that nature. And then 6, work on a cross-lane bridge project. So what I mean by that is if you are doing, say, if you're working on red team, right? You're doing penetration tests, you ran a hack the box exercise. Work on a blue team where you take the results from that and you write a remediation report or a remediation summary, right? Based on this penetration test, now here's how I would fix it based on the blue team side of things. So you want to work on tying your knowledge together. I don't know why I'm pointing that over there, whatever. All right, so some free and low-cost learning arsenals in our arsenal. Quality courses. You definitely look at Anti-Siphon, Just Hacking Training, TCM Security. They all have either free or low-cost options available. I'm a huge fan of all of them. Hack the Box Academy and Try Hack Me also has courses available. Some of them are free, some are also low cost. Coursera and Udemy, they are worth looking at. Just be a little bit more, do a little bit of due diligence. Some of the courses are AI-generated slop. Some of them are legitimately useful. There's a SQL bootcamp that's amazing. For hands-on practice, Portswigger Web Security Academy is fantastic, as is Try Hack Me and Hack the Box's free and paid tiers. And VulnHub VMs are going to be great. Also, like Metasploitable, things like that. Essential tools that you're going to want to look at is going to be Security Onion. Oh my gosh. OWASP, Juice Shop, Damn Vulnerable Web App, Metasploitable, and getting familiar with a Linux security distribution of your choice. Kali is the most common, but there's others like Athena, Parrot, you name it. And then get into your active communities. There's going to be your Study GRC, your Simply Cyber, your Black Hell, BHIS and Anti-Siphon, whole family of them. TCM has a Discord server as well. Take your pick. And there's a very large overlap of the users of those. Everybody is everywhere. Excuse me. All right, we're going to start off with some OSINT appetizers. So the reason why I recommend that people get into OSINT first is because OSINT's going to give you quick wins. It's going to have zero infrastructure needs. You don't need to have a dedicated VM for it, anything like that, any specific tooling. And the investigative mindset that you learn from practicing OSINT is going to transfer to every other cybersecurity role. It's going to help with your critical thinking, your ability to correlate data points. It's fantastic. So start off, work on mastering the ethics, make sure that you're following legal boundaries, the do no harm principles, and absolutely no harassment or stalking. OSINT for good. Second, work on learning your core techniques, your search operators, your social media pivots, learn to do who-is and passive DNS analysis, etc. And then third, we're going to work on building a portfolio project. So you could map a company's digital footprint. You could investigate an event or a cold case, like if you want to do an investigation on a certain Super Bowl event or something like that. Cool, have at it. You could work on automating OSINT information collection with Python. And you can complete OSINT CTFs and challenges and build detailed reports afterwards. Diver CTF is amazing. It's a little bit harder because it's originated in Japan, so there's a little bit of a language barrier, but it's fantastic. Maltigo runs a community CTF. Growlhix and Mrs. OSINT post challenges quite frequently. And Hacktoria is a Discord server that is dedicated to just OSINT, and they have a running storyline that you can progress through. It's fantastic. Also, it's free. All right, so now that we have our appetizer, 1 bite, 1 week, 1 win. How are we going to do this? So we're going to start off, pick one target, ask one question about it, generate 1 page of proof about that question. Include screenshots, step-by-step methodology, clear outcomes, and verify your sources. Publish that as a polished portfolio piece, and that's going to demonstrate your investigative process to a potential interviewer. But above all else, act ethically, because there's no better way to get blackballed in the industry than being an unethical person, in most cases. All right, so we got the zero infrastructure stuff out of the way. Everything else is going to need something in terms of hardware. So building our Pantry stable home lab. Why do you need a home lab? Well, first off, it's going to give you a safe and a legal practice environment to do whatever you want to do with. You don't have to worry about breaking any laws if you're touching your own hardware. It's going to give you an environment where you can run interview demos. You can show somebody, hey, look, I ran this script. Let me pull it up and I'll run it for you in my own environment. And it's going to give you the ability to run repeatable experiments that you control all of the factors of. My recommendation is to start microscopic, so start off with a single host, basic virtualization, and some form of a simple network segmentation. You don't need anything fancy. You can just run VirtualBox on your laptop with one box or one VM, and you're good. Focus on purpose-driven growth. Don't go in, I made this mistake, don't go in and start adding complexity and components just because you feel like it. You can add them in, but make sure that they're serving a specific learning goal, and make sure you are documenting the process as you go, because that is all valuable experience and valuable proof that you can show to somebody. And that ties into document everything. Keep detailed notes of your configurations, your IPs, your passwords, the things that you've grown, and the lessons that you've learned. I highly recommend running something like KeePassX, I think it's KeePassXC. Keep all your passwords in one centralized location, because I'm terrible about forgetting what password I use for what VM. So now that we have a home lab of some form, we're going to look at a 3-course lab. We're going to look at attack, defend, and devour. So for attack platform, again, Kali Linux is mostly the industry standard. If you want to use something else, cool, have at it. We're going to want to run a detection engine of some form. Security Onion is a very good all-in-one. There are also several others like SoftElk, things of that nature, but I recommend start with Security Onion, get it up and running, and then go from there. Practice targets, we're going to be looking at Damn Vulnerable Web App, OWASP Juice Shop, Metasploitable, or VulnHub VMs. Later on, if you want to just spin up your own VM, just a bare Ubuntu VM or something like that, and work on attacking the bare configuration, you can do that too. And then network control, my recommendation is going to be pfSense. You can also run OpenSense. Put yourself in a virtual router. That way you can control the network traffic inside your lab. All right, so now we're looking at our hardware for budget home lab stuff. How much are we spending? So the free tier, good to 150 if you're adding on a little bit extra storage and memory. Use your current laptop or desktop and add in VirtualBox or VMware Workstation Pro. They added in that license for free here, I think, last year. Start there. If you have a little bit more money to play with, you can look at getting yourself a mini PC, like a little NUC or something like that. Aim for at least 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD. That'll give you enough growth for a couple of VMs. Your best bang for your buck, though, is going to be getting yourself a workstation like a used HP Z640 or similar. I'm actually in the process of recording out a YouTube series where I go zero to full blown for a cybersecurity home lab using a Z640. My recommendation is at least 32 gigs of RAM, because Security Onion runs happiest if it has at least 12. And then everything else is going to be for all your other VMs. And then at least a 1 terabyte SSD. That way you've got room for logs, downloaded files, stuff of that nature. In terms of your priority order, you want to focus on RAM first until you have enough, followed by CPU, and then storage. My recommendation is going to be to focus on quiet and low power systems whenever you can, with cheap backup storage options. That way, you don't have the excuse of saying, oh, sorry, in-laws are coming. Sorry, my home office is really, really hot. You can't stay here. Rack mount servers get really loud and noisy. Ask me how I know. I can't run my home lab server in the summer. All right, so next is going to be our recipe card. This is going to be the components that we have in our home lab in general, right? Everybody's is going to be different, but this is my recommendation to start off. First off, you're going to need a hypervisor. You can run VirtualBox or VMware Workstation on a single host, or you can run Proxmox on a dedicated box of some form. Networking, you can throw VMs into network address translation for updates and then back into an isolated lab VLAN to actually run attacks on them. That way you're keeping everything contained. For security, take snapshots before you make major changes to your boxes. I'm going to say this once. Snapshots are not backups, but they are useful. But don't lean on them as backups. In terms of documentation, you want to document your IP addresses and credentials in KeePassXC or something similar, just so that you know what goes with what, because you'll start to lose track. For VM suggested sizing guides, Kali runs fine with 2 cores and 4 gigs, give or take. Security Onion wants 4 cores and 12 gigs minimum, and that scales even higher when you start pumping more traffic through it. Most of your attack targets, though, are going to be happy with 1 or 2 cores and 1 to 2 gigs each. They don't require a whole lot. They're not doing anything, really. So now we have our home lab. How are we going to upgrade it? We want to start expanding our spice rack. Well, first off, you can start looking at containers. You can look at Docker, Kubernetes, whatever you want. Start adding on some lightweight services and experimenting with those. You could add in some advanced SIEM. You could look at Elk or Splunk, Soft Elk if you want to. You can build yourself custom dashboards with Graylog, Elasticsearch, you name it. Look at deception. You can start adding in some honeypots like Teapot, Cowrie, Canary tokens. There's a huge list of the different kind of tokens and deceptions you can run. Also, you can start building out some threat intelligence feeds. Word of caution, if you do start running honeypots, make sure they're properly segmented on what I'm assuming is probably going to be your home network. Cloud integration. Look at expanding into AWS or Azure free tiers, also Google Cloud if you want to. It also offers a free tier. And then you can also start throwing in some hybrid monitoring as well. Pro tip, keep a lab change log and measure the impact of each addition that you make. What new skills did you gain, and how can you share those skills with other people? And then turn around and generate a story about it. It can be a Medium blog post, it can be a LinkedIn post, it can be just a quick message in whatever Discord you feel it's going to be most appropriate in. All right, so now that we've gotten the environment to start running our things in, we're going to want to start running daily drills. Actually, hang on, let me unplug this so my screen stops wigging out. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to have 4 different things that we want to do with our daily drills. And if we're keeping with the food-themed puns, that's going to be prep, sear, taste, and adjust. But in reality, it's going to be reconnaissance, exploitation, detection, and then hardening and remediation. And this is going to apply to everything. So for reconnaissance, we're going to want to do whatever preparation we need to do. You can be like running Nmap, emulating services, and then producing a short report with whatever your findings are. And then sear is going to be your exploitation or your execution. You're going to choose web app attacks or attack a vulnerable VM scenario if you're doing something on the red team side. A detection, then, you're going to turn around, you're going to look at the traffic that you already generated, confirm alerts in Security Onion, and then work on writing yourself at least one Sigma rule based on that detection, right? And then once you're done with writing the detection, turn around and see if you can harden or remediate that particular vulnerability you just exploited. Either fixing configs or codes, you can then turn around and retest the same thing, and then you can capture before and after with screenshots and whatnot and publish yourself an after action report. All right, unfortunately, missing a meme. Okay. Oh, were we back up and running? Okay, hang on. Yeah, give it a try. Oh, hot swapping. Sweet. Yeah, and GRC is coming up. So one thing that is a running joke in the community, not a lot of red and blue team people really understand what GRC does on a day-to-day basis, aside from being the Excel spreadsheet loving, well, actually, rule nerds, right? So, GRC writes the language that you describe everything else in. And I'm stalling because this ties into a fantastic meme. I'm really hoping that I can get up for y'all. Yeah, what's up?
So how many iterations or drafts do you tend to go through between like when you're first taking notes and you're kind of going through to having something ready, like your artifact, right? So from original like scratch notes to artifact, how many drafts?
Okay, so the question was, how many different iterations do I go through during the process of converting notes into an artifact? Or like screenshots and whatnot else. Honestly, that's going to depend on the complexity of whatever it is I'm doing. But typically at least 2 or 3 iterations. I try to make sure that I go back and give myself a little bit of time to not think about it, then go back and read what I wrote and see if it makes sense to me later on after I'm out of the situation. But typically at least 2 or 3. Sometimes more if it's a more complex scenario and I'm trying to make it easily digestible just to the wide audience, right? So to follow up with what I was saying about GRC, the running joke is GRC. What would you say that you do here? Also credit to Haircut Fish. So what is GRC? So GRC is going to be governance, risk, and compliance. Governance is going to encompass our policies and standards. Risk is our risk assessment and risk management. And compliance is the control frameworks and the audits that we do surrounding those. In practice, governance is going to set the rules and the direction. Risk is going to prioritize what actually matters. And then compliance is going to demonstrate that it is being done and it is also a business enabler. For hands-on practice with GRC, I highly recommend deploying CISO Assistant in a Docker container. CISO Assistant has a community version that is free and fantastically full-functioned. And then work on mapping controls across NIST CSF 2.0 and NIST SP 800-53 frameworks. An additional thing that you can do, you can use an LLM like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever your favorite is, to generate a fictitious company profile and then work on building policies for that company in CISO Assistant. So tell it, hey, I want to focus on this particular sector, say healthcare if you're wanting to work on HIPAA, right? Build me a fictitious company profile for a company in a healthcare sector in wherever. And then based off of the information it gives you, start writing your acceptable use policy, your information security program, build a risk register, things like that. Some suggested portfolio outputs for a GRC portfolio are going to be an acceptable use policy, a risk register entry with some scoring, a control mapping comparison table, and a framework selection guide. Like, okay, so based off of this company, here's the framework that I would recommend that's going to be closest in alignment with what your needs are. So we're going to have ourselves a weekly tasting menu. You pick your flavor, whatever you want to do. If you're doing red team, work on completing some try hack me or hack the box machines with a 5-step write-up at the end. You're going to want to be documenting the scope, the enumeration, the vulnerabilities, the exploit itself, and the remediation recommendations for that particular vulnerability. For blue team, work on creating a new Sigma rule in Security Onion, generate some test logs or a PCAP about it, and then document the alert logic that comes out of that particular rule. For OSINT, my recommendation is going to be a 60-minute investigation with a 1-page client-style report with sources. TCM Security has a fantastic OSINT class that does a really good job of also showing here's what a good OSINT report's going to look like. For CTI and cloud, work on your attack technique explainers or an identity access management misconfig detection and remediation for cloud stuff. Because I think it's like 80 or 90% of all cloud vulnerabilities are actually just IAM misconfigs at the root of them. And then for GRC, work on creating one policy document. It can be a risk assessment, compliance mapping, whatever you want to do. Document the control implementation with before and after evidence. All right, now that we've got our kitchen up and running, we want to start having an extra set of helping hands. So we're going to work on automation. So work on building yourself some useful scripts. Some suggestions are going to be Python log parsers or analyzers. You can do OSINT collection or scraping tools. Also work on some PowerShell automation, and some incident response ticket helpers are also fun to work on as well. If you're wanting to get into contribution for code, work on contributing meaningfully. So if you Google Good First Issue, or just search it in GitHub, or go to goodfirstissue.dev, people have curated and annotated different polls or tickets that need to be solved for code that are a good issue for somebody to get started with. So they leave the easier ones and actually earmark them for people to come in and solve later. Documentation improvements do count. There are so many people that hate doing documentation. If you come along and offer to help them run the documentation, they're going to love you forever. And then work on submitting clear and tested pull requests. You want to be very precise and concise with what you are saying you want to do or will be doing. And then work on writing small tests and examples for stuff. It doesn't have to be profound. It doesn't have to be complex. work on something that is meaningful to what you're working on, right? Don't just write code for the sake of writing code. Just remember that small contributions are going to build credibility and show that you can work in real code bases with real other people. All right, so I promise this is not a Rickroll. If you go to this QR code, it's going to lead you to a template cyber portfolio repository on my personal GitHub. And it's going to contain the 5 points that you see here on the left. So the whole thing is a README hub. It's going to have a big README documentation that's going to include templates for you to provide write-ups, your demo videos, detection rules or scripts, and policies or risk artifacts. I have it as a very rudimentary template right now with template documents in the file system structure as well. I am going to be working on refining it in the future as well, so keep an eye out for that though. If you want to provide feedback on the GitHub about it, I am absolutely open to suggestions and would love the feedback. All right, now we've made dinner. Now we need to make that fajita platter sizzle. But joke's on you guys, that's actually just like water that they squirt on the platters. It's not actually anything special. So we want to focus on metrics before adjectives. If we can show with quantifiable numeric results, that's going to speak a lot more than just us saying, I did this. So work on your before and after evidence. You want to look at vulnerability scan results, response times, detection rates, concrete improvements that you're going to be able to measure and show to a hiring manager. Screenshots are also going to help you tell your stories. They're going to be visual proof of the tools that you're using, the configurations that you've built, and are going to focus on the results themselves over just simple descriptions. Again, remember, you want to work on your STAR and your CAR interview prep. So situation, task, action, and result, as well as context, action, result, are going to help you to quantify and define the business impact of whatever story it is that you're telling. And lastly, we're going to want to share with the table. So this is going to be how to participate without the cringe on social media. Remember, building authentic relationships in cybersecurity is going to take consistency and value-first thinking. There has been a glut of issues with people joining the community that all they want to do is take, and they don't ever want to contribute back to the community. And then they wonder why they're not getting as much engagement from the rest of the community. If you're taking the time to try to help others as often as you are asking for help, you are going to go a very long way in the cyber community in general. So work on daily engagement. If you can spend at least 10 or 15 minutes a day, engage meaningfully with community content. This can be blog posts on Medium, it can be LinkedIn, it can be Discord, it can be going out to a local cybersecurity meetup, you name it. Just try to actually engage with the community. And it doesn't even have to be about anything factual. It could just be, shooting the breeze. Just be there. Second, work on leading with value. Share the insights that you've got, ask thoughtful questions, and focus on bringing value to the community as much as you're trying to get value back out of it. And then third, join your local communities and conferences. So this is going to be your local groups like your CitySec, your B-Sides, or your DEF CON groups. After the recent shenanigans that happened with DEF CON, also look at distributed chaos. Your conferences, congratulations, you just ticked this box. So here at Wild West Hackin Fest, there's B-Sides conferences nationwide, actually globally, sorry. One down by me is NolaCon, if you can make it in May, it's down in New Orleans. And then community discords, so your Study GRC, your Simply Cyber, Black Hills, Information Security, Anti-Siphon, Active Countermeasures, TCM, Wild West Hackin Fest has a wonderful Discord, and then local Discords as well. Sorry, did I stick? Cults, no, sorry, cults, no, sorry, communities, that's right, yeah, totally communities. Again, also credit to Haircut Fish. Come on, next. Go. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we're going to start looking at real quick building a simple restaurant-ready resume. So first off, you want to look at your target entry roles. Look them up. So SOC analyst, GRC analyst, whatever your particular flavor is, look up that role, find the requirements for that role, and then start working on building out those skills. Tailored applications are going to be your friend. I recommend building at least one just basic resume, one base resume, and then make a copy of it and alter that copy specifically for whatever job application you're putting it for, right? Because you're going to want to change some wording and things of that nature to tell slightly different stories based on what that what that job listing is asking for. Your interview readiness, in addition to the star and car stories that we talked about earlier, research your target roles, and then work on whiteboarding your project steps, the things that you've done for the home lab and everything else previous to that, and then provide portfolio links. Some hiring managers don't like seeing portfolio links in resumes. Some do. It's kind of a crapshoot. But at least have them ready to provide outside of the resume as well if they want them. And then work on telling your specific stories with metrics. Also, highly recommend joining Banjo Crashland's Job Hunt Like a Hacker live stream. It is Tuesdays at, I think it's 10 or 10:10 Eastern. It is on his Twitch at twitch.tv/BanjoCrashland. I think this is probably the only time that you're getting a twitch.tv call out here at Wild West. But Jason does amazing work with this. He also runs I think it's quarterly 6-hour workshop about the exact same thing. So highly recommend. Also looks like I'm good on time. All right, so quick question. Do I have any barbecue lovers here with me today? All right, this one's for y'all. So pro tip, treat your career and yourself like a fine brisket. You want to make sure that you have a good binder. My personal favorite is mustard. You don't actually taste it, just helps everything stick. And then my personal favorite is a good quality kosher salt and a 16 mesh black pepper, or you can use a premium barbecue rub if you prefer, and apply it to yourself liberally before submitting job applications. This way, regardless of your current skill level, you can technically call yourself a seasoned security professional. Hey. I will take water getting thrown at me afterwards. But in reality, just remember, the best seasoning is actually going to be the experience that you build and the documented proof of your skills in action. Keep this up. I promise, in a few decades, you too can be like this. But like, seriously though, while I was building out this talk, a friend of mine, Chris Whitlock, suggested that I get at least one John Strand meme in here. And so I hit up all of Haircut Fish's posts in the live chat channel for the Black Hills Discord. And there were 957 memes and GIFs in the live chat channel alone. It was 33 pages of search results that I was wading through. But he had a meme for everything that I was trying to put in. So big props to Haircut Fish. Dan is a legend on that. So, call to action. Every talk should have one, right? So this week, or next week, it's fine. We're all lazy. We're all here. Pick the lane that you want to start working on and complete at least one mini project with some documentation. This month, work on shipping one polished write-up and one functional detection rule or script. And then this quarter, work on 3 portfolio pieces and make at least one meaningful source of contribution, of open source contribution, But remember to keep it simple, repetitions over razzle, and proof over promises. Thanks everybody for joining me. Go on, build something amazing. If you would like, the QR code here is going to lead you to a link tree that has my LinkedIn and GitHub links on it. Also, feel free to hit me up on Discord or Signal afterwards if you have any questions. But if anybody has any questions right now, go for it. Yes, sir.
My biggest problem with setting up home labs is segmentation and getting it to work properly. pfSense, you set that up in a VM, or is it a service that runs on a VM?
Gotcha. So the question is, their biggest issue is that they're struggling with network segmentation in their their home lab. Okay, so he was asking how I set up pfSense. pfSense is going to set up as its own VM. You can also, just for your home network, you can run it on a micro PC. I actually have 2 instances of pfSense at home. I have one on my 10 gig router that I have just runs the whole house. And then inside my home lab, I have a virtualized pfSense router that just treats the signal coming into it just as it thinks it's the open internet, right? So I'm virtualizing that, and then inside I have 3 different VLANs inside my home lab. I have one for the attacker net, one for servers, and one for desktops. And then I have Security Onion is inside the server VLAN as well. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Anything from Discord or the live stream?
Nothing but love.
All right. I love love. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Let the next person get up here. Thanks, everybody, for coming to hang out with me. I appreciate y'all.